We already have 6 challenges for Blitz and Classical Chess today. Pretty strong average field. I mean, it's Mule Skinner 2019, Vasilikos 18, Constant Change around 2073, Franco 2261, Mastermind 14, and Baku's just challenged me. They're 1918. So it looks like with the Franco challenge, you're pulling the average up to like over 2,000. That's pretty cool. So lots of good players. I mean, I encourage everyone to play players under 2,000 as well, but it's kind of fun that we get a lot of challenges from pretty strong opponents here. It seems like that's the tendency, and it's actually good for me too. So we're gonna get started playing a Blitz in Classical Chess. Vasilikos' challenge is 8-4. It's okay. Don't change it. It's not worth it. But generally, I don't want to have increments bigger than 3 seconds in the 8-minute challenges. But don't worry about it for this time. In the future, we'll make it like a 3-second maximum. What else though? Nothing to report, guys. We're going to get started. We shaved the beard, so hopefully we're not going to take too much ribbing for that. Mule Skinner, let's get started here. Normal chess today, no weird Wednesday. We're going to play serious openings. Against Mule Skinner, maybe we'll open with d4. Will Skinner in general is a player who likes to play kind of closed systems. d4, knight f6, c4, c5. I can't remember. We had Benko. That doesn't really fit though, you know. That's the funny part of his repertoire here, that he's playing the Benko, but in every other scenario he's basically playing kind of closed games. I think we did play a couple games, but it's been a while, and my repertoire is pretty limited against the Benko. I basically have 2 systems. I either push the pawn or play knight to c3. But knight c3 is kind of a coffee house variation. I mean, b6 is more serious. So I trust this variation. This is my in Hungarian would say komoly, which means serious repertoire, but maybe I need to find something else. It's not that many systems I can play here. So anyway, d6 is fine. Black doesn't have to be in a rush to take this pawn, and this is actually a kind of subtle move order for black. Francoma, yesterday I played tired. Today I'm awake more. I understand what you're talking about. I understand, Francoma. Yeah, it's... Unless you're very young, I don't know, a teenager, it's pretty dependent on how you feel at the moment. You know, it's not easy to play chess if you've been working a lot, or you've been like suffering from lack of sleep or something. And from day to day, I feel much different. One day I have a lot of energy, maybe the next day I don't. I also see that with my students playing. I've noticed a lot watching some of my students play. One day they play like a master. Maybe the guy's 1900. One day he plays like a master, and the next day he plays like he's 1700. So there can be a big variance in the level that you play. Let's say your rating is 2200. I would think, you know, you could vary anywhere between 1900 and 2400 in the way that you play. And that means that like one day you could play like 2200, and the next day you're playing like 1900. That's a pretty big swing of 500 points difference. Okay, so this variation where he's delaying the capture on b6. I think we had this once before. One day I'm going to have to sit down and take a serious 3 or 4 hours to really work on this Benko, because this particular position, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I think it's too late for like knight d2. Knight d2, knight c4, knight d2, knight takes b6. I could play a4 there, I guess. Then after a5, I wouldn't know what to do. So I guess all we can do is just develop our pieces, something like bishop e2, bishop f4, castles kingside, bishop queen d2. One thing in particular, if they take with the knight on b6, they can play like e6 and try to put pressure with e6, try to put pressure on my d5 pawn, try to blow up my center basically. So I should be prepared for that. I was thinking if they take with the knight, we can play like bishop f4 and indirectly put pressure on the d6 pawn, thereby stopping e6 basically. Welcome everyone. I'm trying to wake up with some coffee. I do the stream every weekday from Monday to Friday from this time to 12:30 CET. Alright, so I was talking about knight takes b6. Now queen takes b6 is more standard. The knight on d7 stays where it is, so it can kind of hold up white's e5 advance. Whereas the queen patrols the b file. I think the problem here is that where my normal plan would be knight d2, knight c4 to attack his queen, he can like preempt that pretty much. We'll see what happens here. I am tied down to the b2 pawn. So aside from knight d2 to knight c4, I don't know what else I can do. Maybe something slightly passive. Queen c2. Not the best square in the world for the white queen. It's kind of blocked by the pawn there on e4. Basically stationed passively to defend the pawn on b2. I don't like to play with that kind of formation with white. So Saronche, welcome. Saronche, you've got to help me find your backup. We've got to find a backup moderator the times that you're not here, because someone has to. I get distracted by the trolls, and then my games. Not to make you feel bad, Saronche, you're helping us, but I've got to offer the position to a backup or two. I was thinking maybe Plucro. Honestly, he's not here today. I'm thinking of who's here almost every single stream that I could make an emergency moderator if I have to. Music Dan, thank you for the host. But knight to d2, actually Satis Troll would be a good one. I don't know if he's even here. Sometimes he's lurking. He doesn't really play. Knight d2. This is the actual position. Sorry guys, I moved it back. But there's a problem. I don't want to give it away, but Muleskinner can kind of take advantage of my move order. See, normally I wouldn't be castled already, and I could be playing. My king would be on e1, and I would be playing knight c4. He'd be playing queen c7, and then I'd be playing bishop f4, which is a plan I originally discovered, played by Ivan Sokolov. And the idea is that you get the bishop out on f4, and then if he tries to challenge your knight on c4, with knight b6, you can play knight e3, and the bishop's outside the knight on f4. It's inhibiting black from playing e6. I know this sounds kind of advanced to some of the beginning players who might be listening, but it's really very important that I play knight c4 and get my bishop to f4 before he like threatens a trade of knights and I have to retreat it back to e3. If my bishop gets stuck on c1 and my knight's on e3, that doesn't really coordinate well for white. This is a different situation now. He's played a5. Okay, a5 totally changes the character of the position. It is a typical idea. And in fact, I might have looked at this exact position. I might have actually played this position with someone else. Similar. I'm not sure it was the exact position, but the same fundamental position. Someone played queen c7 against me. And queen b7 was a possibility, but that doesn't make sense really. And with the bishop on c8, he can't play queen b7, so I'm kind of mixing things. But I'd like to play a4 maybe, but there doesn't seem to be time really. saw a game where John Fedorovich, who's a big expert in the Benko, when given the chance, played a4 in this kind of position. a4, a3, a4, kind of a dragon type of idea. And in case you haven't noticed, white is a little bit backward along the b file. That's the fundamental downside of this entire variation. They should disable the viewers list for this channel. Yeah, if anybody wants to volunteer to be an emergency moderator, just so you can ban trolls while I'm playing. No other responsibility really. Let me know. Bishop a6. So there's no time for knight takes a5. One of the things that black wants to do, like in the Benoni here, is trade some pieces. Maybe one set of pieces. If you can trade one set of pieces, black's job is much easier. On the other hand, it's my bad bishop, you could say, on e2. So I have a tough decision here. To let him trade on c4, that's one possibility. And the second possibility is to trade bad bishop for bad bishop for quote-unquote good bishop. But this bishop looks pretty good, actually, on the long diagonal. I don't think there's really a good bad bishop here. I mean, my pawns are on d5 and e4, so my e2 bishop is relatively restricted. But it's just a question of which minor piece I want to let him trade for. Another interesting possibility is rook a3. Well, we only live once. Let's play it this way. The rook has very good lateral mobility there. It's usually getting in the game. I decided to let him trade for my knight on c4 if he wants. Because black's played a5, if my bishop takes on c4 and it settles into b5, it's going to be quite powerful, blocking the b file, taking control of e8, defending, threatening bishop c6 in some positions. The other possibility, guys, was really, I think, knight a3. Knight a3, bishop takes e2, queen takes e2, and the idea would be to create like a permanent outpost for my knights on b5. I think this idea has a lot of merit as well. If you gave this position to a computer, I think it would just say white's a little bit better because I have more space. But space is difficult to profit from if black's able to trade enough pieces off. Okay, so now we're degenerating into blitz mode here. 95, interesting. Bishop is very strong. If he can try c4, is that his idea? To be honest, a lot of times in these kind of positions I played b3 and like rook a2 and try to bring the rook across laterally. It's going to be hard to activate this rook from a3 now, the way he's played this. Normally, my default would have been to do the plan B, which was basically knight a3 with the idea of using the b5 square and having that as a permanent outpost for like a knight. But I'm not that convinced by this. White's advantage isn't that big. But I'll tell you guys, I don't really like accepting the Benko. You know, it's really tough. And I don't like losing the initiative, as is the case. Oftentimes when you play the Benko Gambit accepted, black kind of takes over the initiative. Alright, Queen C7. Now my rook on A3 is having a hard time. Random aggressive move. I just want to develop my pieces now. This rook on A3 is going to be an issue though. Okay, this changes everything. Dramatically changing the pawn structure. This is his point. He wanted to play C4. I really need to do something here quickly. Knight D3 is a threat. Or not. Maybe not that big a deal. I hope. Okay, now there's knight takes B2. Not really though. Okay. It's not a literal threat. You can play B3. That's an awkward move. There is this. Maybe this is good for us. Blocking up all these key squares. The C4 pawn starts to look like it's quite vulnerable to just falling off here. I'm not sure if bishop d4 is a good move. It looks a little slow, but I needed to protect my pawn. I didn't want to weaken myself with f3. But maybe it would have been better to just play f3. I guess in retrospect, I was concerned about the bishop on g7. Okay. I think he missed the boat there. A knight b6 would have been the move. There is a check. Oh man, I'm just like completely overlooking that move. Wow. I just totally overlooked knight takes c6. Speaking of being tired, why did he do that? Oh, I have c7. Okay, just blunderfest here. I mean, wow. So knight 7e5, well, there was nothing else I could do, basically. But how can I not see that move? Strange, I just completely overlooked. Completely overlooked that he was attacking my bishop on c6. Just not used to playing with it in this kind of position, I guess. We're a rook up. Yes. F5. F5 looks like it opens up his king pretty well. But everything's good. G-O. Oh man, it's a rook up with increment. Alright. Yeah man, I was just missing knight takes c6, although it turned out that knight takes c6 maybe not good. Wait a second. Knight takes c6, d takes c6. Of course you have queen b6 check here. Then you lose a piece. That's the point. Queen b6 check, king h1, queen takes c6, queen takes d3. And he's dropping a piece. So maybe knight takes c6 wasn't so great after, even though I missed it altogether. Okay, Billionaire at 30 says, can playing chess improve reasoning skills overall? I think there'd be no question. I mean, I don't think that we need to have a discussion about that. Yeah, it should improve your reasoning skills, I would think. I would think it would improve a lot of things mentally. E4. In my case, it's obviously not slowed. It's not slowed the onset of Alzheimer's or senility. Okay, guys, Sicilian defense. We're playing serious openings today. Constant change. Good morning, Evil Gwyn. Dat ending. What is dat ending? Dat ending a rook up. A rook up. Okay, let's just play d6. But Mule Skinner asking some questions in the Benko there. I guess there's so many different move orders that black can play. I guess this Benko declined with b6. It's kind of impossible to be prepared for everything. But the positions are pretty similar. I don't usually allow what happened in the game. Bishop takes c4 and play with like a white squared bishop against knights, though. I had the feeling that my position is okay because I can block the b file by sticking that bishop on b5. He doesn't have any real counterplay along the b file, which is his usual idea there. Bishop to b5, speaking of the devil. Okay, this move is, I see this a lot. You're basically transposing to some kind of like bishop b5 Sicilian. If you play bishop g5, you turn it into a Richter Rouser with bishop b5 and bishop g5. Now here we could play g6. This is a big question. If you want to play g6, I'm more accustomed to playing the Richter Rouser, so that's why I play e6 here. The ending was equal because of opposite rooks. Strong mules, skinny mules. Mules are, I'm sure they're, it's kind of like eating horses. I don't know. Let's see, f4. Donkey meat. f4. Something weird about bishop b5 in tandem with f4. Why not? I mean, I don't think there's anything concretely wrong with f4. He can always defend this diagonal with queen b6. Looks perfectly reasonable for white. If bishop takes pawn, I'd probably take with the bishop. I've had enough bad bishops in the black side of the Rossolimo and classical Sicilian to fill a lifetime. This bishop tends to be like, if you take, bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6. When I was younger, I was much more optimistic, and I would think, oh, wow, I've got the bishop pair, this bishop pair could be. But in reality, I mean, I don't know that this light squared bishop is going to get out alive, from this structure. after something like bishop takes c6, b takes c6, e5. Maybe black's okay, but the white squared bishop will get kind of buried for a very long time. So I think if there was an exchange on c6, I would lean toward just taking with the bishop so as not to end up with a bad piece. So guys, we're streaming here till 12:30, another 2 hours. We've got 9 challenges, which is incredible. That's going to be the maximum games we can play. If we're gonna get any more challenges, we're gonna have to make faster time controls, like 5 minutes for all the games. But I've been thinking about like maybe doing different time controls for different days. You know, like what do you guys think if we played like maybe one day was like faster blitz, like all games were 5-3, like one set time control, and then like one stream would be like more standard games. Now after a big lecture about like one stream could be like 15 minutes, 15-0 or 15-1, really longer base time, 15-2, 15-2 maybe. After this big lecture about like taking with the bishop on c6, he goes and plays knight takes c6. And this is the quandary now, like if I take with the bishop, fine, it's fine, but I mean there's a temptation to take with the pawn here because I do gain a tempo. But is it really objectively worth it, you know? If you think about the position strategically, like pawn takes, okay, he probably shouldn't play bishop c4 because that move will just walk into d5. He could, but what I would expect would be like pawn takes bishop d3, you know, maybe some weird move like bishop a4. Pawn takes bishop d3. Black is obviously fine. But the position's a little hard for black to play. You know, it's not clear what we're doing in the long term in terms of pawn structure. I don't like trading pieces on a practical level when I'm facing someone who's much lower rated than me. You know, the more pieces we trade, I guess the closer we get to what could be like a draw in position. But I just want to try to illustrate, you know, what's going on here strategically. Probably the better move is bishop takes c6, but there's an argument for b takes c6. It's just that I don't really see what this bishop is going to do. What we'd have to try to pull off there would be something like b takes c, bishop d3, c5 maybe, and bishop c6. But we do have a backward pawn. So now, there was a third possibility. No, there wasn't. Never mind. Never mind. I was going to say there was a third possibility of queen b6 check, but that doesn't really work. Alright, knights do move backward. So I think this position is more or less equal. White has a little more space, but we've got a pawn coming toward the center. We have good control of d5. And we've got the b file, which looks pretty good. Half open b file. Development is more or less equal. We've traded 2 sets of pieces, which means that we're not really in trouble in terms of our pieces tripping over each other. We have fairly good coordination. I think that white's attacking potential is kind of limited because there are 2 sets of pieces traded already. I mean, obviously he could maybe find a way to create some threats on the king side. Now is a very important decision, strategically speaking. We basically have 3 candidate moves: takes, knight d5, or knight d7. I don't really see knight e8 as a realistic move. Alright, so tactics rule, and we look like we're in good shape here. Winning by force? Virtually, in fact. No. Not winning by force. Okay. Well, at least we're at least equal. Worst case scenario, we trade just trade some pawns, and I think ultimately we'll have the safer king. If you play longer games, your analysis would be deeper. Of course, Wasabi. Is that Master Wasabi? I think the idea of having different time control would be good, you know. It would attract different players to view it. I mean, we'd have certain, you know, people get interested. Maybe if we had slightly different time controls each day, I think that would make things a little more fun. And maybe we'll leave Weird Wednesday where it's at, and then, you know, try to add like a faster day and a slower day. So like one day in the week will be like just 5-3. And one day in the week will be like 15-2. And I was thinking, we'll leave like 3 of the days where they're at, but for now, adding one slower and one faster. Basic time control. Spinal Tap Chess, what's up? Spinal Tap Chess got a message deleted. You've been bad, man. You're causing trouble again? I can imagine you were a troublemaker in high school. Spinal Tap Chess. Spinal Tap, I saw something about Spinal Tap in the news. I mean not you, Spinal Tap, like the real Spinal Tap. Okay, Queen takes c6. John Fedorovich told me eloquently, think a lot, think about all you got. This is some kind of 70s song that he quoted you know, as kind of inspirational reading for me once. But seriously, I mean, that's all you can do in chess. That's why I advocate not playing bullet chess. Queen takes c6 here. You know, it's like thinking is good. Thinking, you should be thinking. You should be spending time. Chess was made to be played with thinking, not with no thinking, you know. Here, what do we have? We have good mobilization, triple connected on the back rank. No weaknesses, really good development. His king is more open than mine. So queen d4 check, king h1, knight g4 would be like primitive attempt to take him down tactically. I just don't think it's quite enough. Rook c8, well, what does that do, you know? What does that do, really? Queen d4 check and e4, creating a passed pawn. Looks kind of double-edged because the pawn itself might get weak. So I'm kind of not sure what to do around here. Bishop b4, rook c8. Rook c8 just attacking his queen for the heck of it. The only question there for me is, like, is my a7 pawn going to become a problem? And I don't think so. This move looks good. As long as a7 doesn't become a weakness because I move my rook from a8, I think this looks like a good move. Fast Friday. Yeah, I like the Fast Friday idea. I was looking for, like, eloquent sounding names. We have Weird Wednesday, Fast Friday. Something catchy or medium length Monday doesn't really do it. I know that Jeroen wants Thirsty Thursday. But then I have like a hangover for the Friday stream. That's the problem. Freaky Fridays. Frank Coma says, I love long games. One day with 2.25 plus 10 games would be cool. 25 plus 10 games would be cool. Oh, the 25 plus 10. Yeah, that's like pretty extreme. I think that's pretty far, going pretty far. Okay, queen f3 is a good move. I was mentioning I was concerned about my a7 pawn. So the problem is like bishop e3, bishop c5 check, bishop e3. For some reason, I feel like I'm playing Mule Skinner again. I don't know why. About the same speed as Vasilikos, I think. Not really faster than me, but not that slow either. Actually, none of you guys are really slow. Not too many players are slow. Maybe Fran is one of the only slow ones. Although I don't know him that well, chessically. Played maybe 6 or 7, 8 games. E4 here. I don't see any tactics. Now he's threatening to take on E5, obviously. The police car is wailing in the background. Alright. Queen D4, anybody? No tactics here. No real loose pieces for white. I mean, everything's protected. I don't know what to do here. I really don't know what to do. This just feels like an aggressive move. Stopping bishop e3, defending my pawn. But I think that white's fine too. He actually has a better structure in a sense because I have an isolated pawn, but I oftentimes, you know, I'm of the opinion that the larger pawn chain is generally an advantage, like the larger pawn island, I mean, not pawn chain, but in general, the side that has the bigger pawn island usually has the healthier pawn structure. In this case, it's really imbalanced, though. Like 3 against 2 on the queen side could mean, you know, 2 connected passed pawns and an ending or something. So I have to be careful. This is a really imbalanced structure. Okay, knight e2 looks like we've got queen e4. We might not have anything else, in fact. Queen e4 looks like forced. The only move that doesn't sacrifice material, basically. I guess I could play queen d6, but that looks strange. I didn't really calculate this too deeply. Queen takes f3. Whoa, what am I doing? A threatening mate? Threatening mate is good. Threatening mate is good. That is a positive thing. We've got all our pieces developed. We've got a potential passed pawn. And we're messing with him here. Got all sorts of nasty tricks and whatnot. Okay. Well, I'm going with the pawn. We're going with the pawn. I mean, white's hanging on. And he does have the 3-on-1 queenside majority I was talking about. But we have a 5-on-3 on the king side. His king is pretty uncomfortable, it looks like. And I don't want it getting too much air. Tricky situation though. He's had trouble obviously developing his queen side, but it's hard to conduct an attack with no queens on the board. I think black is better. Obviously this move makes a lot of sense for white. Oh man, he blundered. I mean, if he plays bishop e3 there, I think I might have been in trouble. I don't know. Maybe not in trouble, but he had to play bishop e3. I mean, blockading and attacking my a7 pawn, stopping rook d2. I'm not sure who's... I guess maybe I'm still better, but this is a question. Should I play bishop b6? He's just rolling the pawns down, you know. I had to play like a4, a6. Things are getting out of control there. I mean, his queenside majority, I wouldn't know how to evaluate it. It looks like I'm in trouble. Just out of curiosity, I want to see what the analysis board says here. It thinks I'm better and bishop b6 was a better move. The computer likes my passed pawn. Okay, I mean, after bishop b6, he can only play a4. He can't play c4. You know, bishop b6, like a4, a6, I guess. And this move, this pawn can't go forward. So black is slightly better. All right, guys, good game. Constant Change, Franco, Mastermind. Too many challenges, guys. Don't offer any more challenges. You took like Master Yoda. Often ending sentences with parts you should start with. You know what it may be? Drawmeister, that it might be too much hanging out in a country where I'm speaking to people who aren't native speakers. I have to talk very like simply for people to understand, I guess. I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe it's an effect of constantly speaking to people and like trying to simplify the way I'm talking, like consciously, because a lot of them aren't native speakers. E4. I feel very motivated today. That's a good sign. Guys, no more challenges. I don't know if we're going to be able to play all these challenges. And Drawmeister, you're challenging me to 10-0 is not really acceptable. We only play with increment, so it'd have to be like 7-3 or 8-3. Is there anything good about doubled pawns, Evil Gwyn? Yes, there is something very good about doubled pawns. The good thing about doubled pawns is that it gives you a half-open file to operate with your rooks. Every time you have a doubled pawn, you have a half-open file the other guy doesn't have, or girl, as the case may be. So there's a positive side to everything. Modern defense against Constant Change. He's not. Oh, actually, I'm afraid I played this against him the other day. Oops. Like, I think we just had this game. He's not really a theoretical player. So against guys like that, I like to play this kind of stuff like the modern defense because they don't really punish it like a really heavily prepared opening centric player would be. Bishop c4. I think you might have played a different move order last time. Maybe not. I guess it was the same. Yeah, this is our game from either Monday or last week. No problem, maybe next time. Thank you, Saronche. Yeah, this is our same game from... He played knight bd2, I remember. It's a strange move. But generally speaking, I think the best line with bishop c4 is probably to play like knight c3, d6, bishop c4. Knight f6, queen e2. There were a lot of games in the 80s and 90s in that line. So he improved to knight c3. Now, I don't know what the status of knight takes e4 is, but I'm sure that it doesn't give black an advantage. I don't know if it could possibly equalize, like something like knight takes e4, bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7, knight takes e4, h6. Sometimes those type of positions are fine for black. On the other hand, he can play like knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5, bishop d3 with a totally equal position. So if I want to win, usually you have to think of something a little bit better. But I also don't mind like waiting, you know, to do this kind of trick till my rook's on f8. So we had the same game, he had the knight on d2, though that's pretty lame for white. I mean, blocking the bishop on c1 and putting the knight on a passive square. Knight c3 is much better. What's happening in the chess world, guys? The World Women's Championships going on. Man, I looked at some games from that. Didn't find anything interesting. Of course, a lot of women players didn't go because they're protesting the conditions in Iran or whatever. Anyway, what other interesting chess events are on the map? Anybody have anything to draw our attention to? Kind of quiet at the moment as far as like major chess events. Bishop f4 and bishop c4. Okay, that looks a little bit weird. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d5. Alright, I mean, this should equalize for black. I don't know that it's giving us any sort of an advantage, but we have c5, I think, like in Grunfeld. The bishop on f4, I decided this is not really a great square for that bishop. We have counterplay on the long diagonal. White's not castled yet, so it's not really an exciting position, but probably at least equality for black. Charles Dwyer asked, do you think you'll get married and have kids? How do we know that I'm not already? How do we know so much? How many times is the question. Everybody's watching the Pro Chess League. Pro Chess League, affiliated with chess.com, right? I see that is the only problem with it. D takes c5. I also don't like the name. I mean, no disrespect to Chess Bra, but to have a team called the Montreal Chess Bras, I don't know, man. I think they need to dig a little deeper and come up with something a little bit like more universal, you know. Okay, wait a second here now. I almost played Queen A5 check. You know, that looks really, really convenient for white. Why are we not taking bishop takes b2 here? Bishop takes b2, rook b1, bishop c3 check, bishop d2. Oh man, he could move his king, but that looks bad for white. Bishop takes b2, rook b1, bishop c3 check. Yeah, I mean, what's really going on here? I mean, ultimately, we're winning a pawn. Well, not really winning a pawn. Okay, we're winning our pawn back. We are winning a pawn. We're down a pawn, technically, at the moment. Winning it back with a better structure. They chose the Chess Bra because it's more recognizable for their fans. Yeah, I can understand that. But I think you've got to think bigger. I mean, I think you've got to think like, I don't know. Something more like, you know, universal to everybody in the world. Because like the average person who doesn't know anything about chess, who might just learn the game, will be like, what's a chess bra, you know? So I guess I'm kind of old-fashioned, but I think we should go with something more like, I can't find the right word, sort of archetypal, you know, like something really primitive and basic. Oh no, constant change offering the exchange sacrifice here. You know I'm not in love with taking this kind of rook in this Grunfeldian type of position. What I do like about this position for black, though, is my structure. Bishop takes a1, knight d7, bishop h6, knight f6. not really sold on this. It seems like a risky thing to do for me. We could play, try to win the exchange. But we lose the initiative. If we take here, takes, he's threatening bishop h6. I have no development. That means like f6. That looks too dangerous to me. I think that we're gonna nix that idea, to play for that. Guess we have a number of moves. Knight d7. Knight d7 might be a problem as well because of c6, I just realized. We may have to play knight c6. Bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6. Knight c6 seems like I don't want to let him play c6. Like knight d7, c6 practically wins the exchange for white. Bishop takes a1, loses the initiative. You could try to get away with it. A computer might get away with taking this, but I don't want to go there with a limited time. I was thinking about taking it and giving back the exchange, like bishop takes, queen takes, knight d7, bishop h6, knight f6, bishop takes f8. But at the end of the day, that's probably actually okay for me. Take, knight d7. There he has a scary move, though. He could play like rook d1 with nasty threats. We're going to have to make a decision. I mean, actually, bishop takes a1, queen takes a1, knight d7, c6 is still a problem. So I think it's not really possible to ever do like knight d7. Just this c6 threat is too big. No, we're just not going to take anything here. Just try to stabilize the situation now. Bishop g7 or bishop f6. Though white has a bad structure, his activity compensates. The rook here, bishop's very active. He has at least enough compensation for the structural weaknesses. He might be better, but I'm not certain about that. These bishops ended up staying quite active. Tabenko is considered weak at the GM level? I don't think so, man. I mean, maybe by some players, but I don't think so. I wouldn't agree with that. Not in my experience. I mean, most of the GMs I know respect that opening. Okay, queen a5 is interesting, but looks like it loses a pawn. Other than that, it's great. Queen e1. Where does he come up with this move? Queen e1. Where would he possibly come up with such a move? Here? Running out of time. My queen is also problematic. I don't think that's good enough. Can I just play e5? e5. It's going to drop a pawn. Alright, I'm just playing this because I have no time. He's left me with no time. Looks like we're in trouble. But I was hoping that the bishop pair could give me some chances. His extra pawn will be a doubled pawn, so hopefully not that dangerous. Bishop takes c6. He wins a pawn, but it's a doubled pawn. We have two bishops that might be worthwhile. We're threatening to grab a pawn on a2 now, which looks pretty takeable. But I'm not sure this is good enough for me. We try to avoid risk in this game. I'm now a patron member now with the cool wing. Yeah, I thought I should do that and give back. We have no more time for challenges, guys. I only imagine we're going to play like 7 more games at most. Can the rook be trapped? Not really. Oh, this rook on a8? Absolutely. I mean, I had to watch out for that constantly. If I had played knight d7 earlier, he's going to play c6 and trap my rook exactly. With the two bishops can trap the rook on a8. He took on a5. I didn't take this very seriously as a candidate variation, but maybe I should have. Obviously, you know, I spent most of my time thinking about bishop takes c6, queen takes e1, rook f takes e1, b takes c, rook takes e7. White wins a pawn there, but I wasn't sure what's really going on because I have a pawn down, a double pawn down, but two bishops. I thought white was better in that line. But he's gone for something else. Crazy with the cheapos. I thought you had to play bishop d2 there. But perhaps not. Yeah, that's his only move. Not the best move for me. I keep making stupid moves. It's okay, though. Wow. Oh my goodness. We had some nervous moments here in this game, that's for sure. Thus losing. There he even might still be hanging on with like rook d5. Probably not, though. I don't know. His king is not that great. This pawn is weak. So we're lucky, though. I mean, I don't know if I was ever lost, but it looked like white had plenty of chances in this game. Franco Mastermind, Bakus, Nabil, Back to Basics. Those games I'm probably going to get to for sure. And then maybe SX, Chess of Turco. SX needs to change his challenge to 8+3, though. SX, you're right after Back to Basics. If you'd like to play, 8-5 is too long. So I've let the 8-4 slide, but the 8-5, it's just too slow, man. Those 2 seconds add up to like another, they can add up to another minute, basically. Okay, Franco, 2261, solid player. He also likes to play the longer games. Rook h8 instead of rook 8, of course, Mule Skinner. He has to, he just missed rook a3, I guess. I don't know. He has to try to stay active. But I think the critical moment had passed. You know, I mean, I think that white was in big trouble. No matter how you slice it there. I don't remember what our last game was. It was the other day, yesterday. Okay, c4, e6. Now, white has several different ways to play. d4, knight c3, g3. Mostly I play d4 in this position. Because knight c3, bishop b4 is a variation that I've had trouble against. It's a kind of nimzo that I don't really play. But let's try g3. Reti. Reti after d5. We can try to transpose to the Catalan if he plays d5. You can transpose to the Catalan with d4 if you want to. We'll do that. I've never really had that much success with the Catalan. I'm not really a deeply studied Catalan player. Very early capture on c4. Now I suppose that white could play queen a4 check. This is a line I don't really know too well. I'm better versed in lines where black plays bishop e7 and then later takes on c4. SPG, you changed it to 8-3. Okay, so you're after Back to Basics in the list there. But he's transposing now, which is good because I know that bishop e4 check is a very trendy line. And I don't really know the line with white, so that's fortunate. Queen c2. This is the main line for years and years. And a few months ago, I noticed there was one Russian, Bukavshin or something like that, who was playing b6. Then the other day I was playing a simul where I tried that with black. I played b6, and white has tried various things. Grabbing the exchange with knight e5. I think taking on c4. But my opponent here, he just played knight g5, and it looks like a really good, after b6, knight g5, it's a really good try for white to just like sacrifice a pawn for the initiative. after b6, knight g5. This was a theoretical novelty that no GMs could have played yet. I have to play c6, and then he just like no, sorry, he just played queen takes c4, bishop a6, queen c2, queen takes d4, and sacrificed a pawn. And black has some problems with the queen being misplaced. So I'm not sure b6 is all that great. But this knight g5 move might be in fact better than other moves that have been played already. Now, traditionally, queen takes c4 is the main line. Of course, this is played by everybody. Gelfand, Aronian, everybody in the top 10 in the world has played this at some point. But a4 is a little more trendy of late. I don't think it's necessarily better, but maybe more fun because it's not quite as, I don't know, studied to death as queen takes c4. What am I doing? I don't know, man, but I'm trying to win all my games. That's what we're trying to do. Guys, we stream here Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 12:30 CET, which is basically GMT plus 1. Yes, bishop d7. And now for the next trick. Right, so I think once I played like knight a3 and was kind of ashamed after b5 that I didn't have anything. There's knight e5, bishop c6. If I just take on c4 here, how about bishop g5 now? Queen takes c4, bishop c6. I guess that's main line. I'm a little concerned about b5 happening somewhere down the line there. I guess b5 always happens. We should have this much committed to memory, but I don't. I think you could play a5 here. I might have seen a5 in some game. Stream is good today. No drop frames. The FPS is on a low setting. I apologize that my webcam is on a super low setting, but it's not a high-speed video game, so you guys can watch me in slow motion. Yeah, I just am spacing on what I'm supposed to play here. I mean, I guess there's more than one move, but I just know that bishop g5 is a typical mechanism. I think that one of the reasons why white does bishop g5, besides just getting a piece developed, is probably to discourage black from freeing their position with c5. The bishop can't really work, you know, on two different paths. Knight d2. Just getting developed. This may be a totally new idea. I don't know. It just seems logical for white. Are you a GM yet? Oh no. No, I allowed this. I forgot he could play b5. We'll always have some sort of compensation, right? Bishop takes f6. Pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. Knight g5. Bishop takes g5. Oh god. I made a terrible mistake. All right, let's just focus everything and see if we can get some kind of compensation of some sort. The d4 pawn is a problem. Oh man, we screwed this completely. b3. Maybe we should play b3 at some point. We have to try to just play this as a full-on long-term pawn sacrifice now. I didn't mean to do it. I thought I could just recapture at will. Of course it's not that easy. Just recapture on c4 whenever you want. Lost touch with reality there for a second with knight on bd2. I was wondering, like, why can't you just, this is so easy. It was like, we'll just recapture with a knight on c4. Of course not, he can play b5. So this doesn't look right, but on the positive side, we have more development and our structure is pretty sound. So hopefully, you know, if I go a pawn down or two double pawns down, we'll have good long-term comp for the sacrificed pawn or pawns. Now, knight takes was my plan, and I think we're going to stick to the plan here. Looking at the c5 square and keeping the queen on the c file. He took there. It's a little greedy taking on a4, Franco. I mean, you could just try to keep your structure and develop. Actually, bishop e4 followed by, you know, smooth development with something like knight d7. This looks strange to break up your pawn structure to me. So I think he made a very serious error there. I mean, that was perfect. Knight bishop e4, kicking my queen, and then knight bd7 when black should be good to go. Now life is not so clear. I mean, his extra pawns are this. These are the extra pawns, you know. Those are not going to win any prizes in terms of pawn structure. So at the end of the day, maybe we're fine here. Now we have to think again. Thinking. Queen takes e4. I'm sorry, queen takes c5, knight e4, bishop takes d8. Bishop takes c5, bishop e7, knight b3, bishop takes f8. We have other moves as well. Not sure if this is enough or not. We should win at least one pawn back. But the second one could remain a problem. Plus we're very far behind in development. Well, I like keeping the queens on the board. Now it looks very, very crystal clear that we have adequate compensation. These pawns are all broken. You know, if he could have gotten in knight e4 last move, maybe it was playable. If that variation I was talking about, if that worked, that was the way to go. Because now with queens on the board, it looks like he has problems getting his knight out. And if the pawns start to fall, white could even be better. Quality pieces. Queen f5. Oh, it's a devious threat, right? There's just no time. This is a nice move. Queen f5. So he has that move. He also had an alternative. This is probably a bad idea. Well, maybe not. We've got to do something, and I was about to lose on time. Still down 2 pawns here. A minute ago, I was sure I had enough compensation, but now it doesn't look so clear. Just the A pawn is a problem. It's gonna haunt me for the rest of the game. All of our pieces are well mobilized, but this pawn is a huge threat in any kind of ending. This looks like some sort of trap. All right, got to take here. I'm not going to be able to stop this pawn. Not effectively. His knight is very good. Virtually lost for white. Wait a minute. Having super strange deja vu. Rook takes d4. Our only chance is on time, ladies and gentlemen. Knight d3. Where's he going? This isn't good enough. Not good enough for me. Ah, knight b4. We have swindled this to winning our pawn back. Well, he's got a pawn. This is a whole nother story now. Still very technical. Get behind the passed pawn. Try to get behind the passed pawn. But we gotta watch out. Some threats. Knight h5 doesn't work. Yes. Oh no. All right, where am I going to go now? Back to blockading? No. Uh-oh. Super weird plan. Oh, that's a relief though. All right, I was concerned about f4. Still complicated though. Maybe I should have played a different move there. I thought he was going to lose on time. No, you blundered a piece. Sorry, man. Don't resign. Might still be a draw. I don't know, you're so much better that I can win a knight and still you have chances to draw, but... Are you mating me there? After knight g3? Knight h4 check? Why didn't you play knight h4 check? I'm nearly getting mated. Knight h4 check. I'm not getting mated because of king f1, but it looks very bad for white. Knight f3, and I'm barely hanging on. Your king is coming across. I think this is winning for black. It's very, very close to winning. So, well played game, Franco. Only the time like me is a problem. Mastermind 14. When you press the Alt on the keyboard and right mouse button the arrow, the possible moves turn blue. Thank you, Glideson. The keyboard's so far away. I need like voice activated keyboard. It's better to show the threats. Thank you, Glideson. Good point. Yeah. Alt on the keyboard, right mouse. Thank you. Good to see you, Glideson. I know that you usually I think you've been studying, so you probably don't have time to tune into the stream here. Okay, Mastermind 14. This is a new opponent for me. 1800 Blitz, Correspondence 21, Classical 19. So he's kind of fits in because the average strength of our opponents, it seems to be around 2000, 1900, 2000. Fairly strong average. Rest in peace, the beard. The beard was driving me crazy, but I couldn't have time. I didn't have time to shave for like 2 weeks. This sounds ridiculous, but excuses. At first I didn't care, but it's after like 3 weeks, it's too much. 2 weeks. Knight f6. Ah, the Berlin defense, my favorite. No, thank you. All right, we'll play our 19th century move, Queen e2. I like this. Objectively, black is equal against everything anyway, so we might as well go really old school. I recommend Queen e2 or d3, you know, not going into the Berlin ending after castles. Let's try the blue arrow. I like the blue arrow, man. Red arrow. Thank you, Gleitzen. We're incorporating new concepts. Yeah, so bishop c5. This follows some really old Chigorin game, I think. Bishop c5. And then trying to take here. Chigorin did this in a game, I think. And black can take back either way. It's quite interesting. So I prefer c3. Play it like a whirl variation. It can actually transpose to the whirl if black plays differently. I mean, bishop c5 is obviously one line. Black can also play after queen e2, d6, obviously. The one move you also have to consider is bishop e7. And the really weird move in this position for black, check this out. After queen e2, wait, no, not this position, I'm thinking of a different position, sorry. Have you guys seen d3, knight e7, by the way? That's a pretty cool idea. d3, knight e7, with the idea of knight takes e5, c6, bishop moves, and queen a5 check, winning the knight on e5. I saw the one game where Ivan Isevich actually did that. I also make videos for chesslecture.com, which is a subscription site, and I have done so for many years. Over almost 10 years I've been making videos over there. And I recently did a series, actually not so recently, it was like 8 months ago, about avoiding the Berlin defense. So various games I went over with queen e2 and d3. I think this is the only way. But it's much better than accepting, you know, castles, knight takes e4, from a practical standpoint. I played d6, but d4 now looks good for white. White seems to have a significant advantage after this. The end of college and my time is short. You mouse slipped, Franco, I'm sorry. It was a good game. I blundered, you know, of course, like letting you keep the pawn on b5. I was in a utopia fantasy. Having a utopian fantasy that I could just do whatever I wanted while you just played b5, so. Then the gambit after that, I mean, you can watch the stream and see what I said, but more or less, there were a couple of interesting opportunities where you had alternative ways of playing, and obviously you were winning. I mean, when you had the a pawn, you were winning, and even at the end, you were probably winning. So maybe winning at the end, I don't know. You know, if you play knight h4 check, king f1, that's really interesting. Maybe it's not quite enough, but it's pretty scary. So What do we do here? Bishop d2 or knight c3? I mean, knight d2 doesn't look right. You know, knight to d2 blocking my bishop is the one move I'm not curious about here. Generally speaking, knight c3 seems like the more aggressive option. We're going to go with that. Trading pieces doesn't strike me as very dangerous. We have the nice center, though. Can we maintain it? That's the question. He's given up his strong point on e5, but he will get some counterplay. Bishop g5 deserves serious consideration. h3 prophylactic move. This is going to get more difficult before it gets any easier, I guess. And h3 is h3 too slow? Castles bishop g4 is a little unpleasant for white. But he has knight takes e4. If I play h3, knight takes e4. Maybe we have to play bishop g5. I don't know about this. It's a game. He has compensation for the center in terms of his active development. I mean, it's kind of like a Chigorin, the way that black has just developed the pieces out to very aggressive squares, Chigorin style. But counterattacking my center, his knights are good. The pin is not friendly for black with bishop g5, but he can deal with it. I mean, most likely he's going to have to take some kind of very direct measures with h6. That's sort of the only move. I mean, I guess you could play rook e8 instead. That would allow d5 with some complications. So h6. Yeah, so we can play bishop takes knight. It's probably the only good move. Bishop h4 would be nice, but am I going to sacrifice a piece realistically here? Can't do that. I just have to do this. Maybe I'm going to be taking both knights in reality. But we don't have to rush with that. Castles first. No, he has knight takes d4 now. Yeah, we can castle, but it would probably be queenside in this position. My original plan is h3, I guess. Bishop takes c6, b takes c6, h3. Then queen g6 starts to look really awkward for white. Mastermind. It's a relatively new account. He's threatening knight takes d4. Black looks pretty good here. Castle's queenside is off the table. No, I guess I have to castle kingside. Allow bishop g4. Maybe it's not so bad. If I weaken myself with h3, queen g6, it seems like we're in trouble there. Hi, Lagger Bimbom says owned by Mastermind. Yeah, it looks that way. It looks that way, guys. Black has the advantage here. But objectively, I don't think it's like game over. He has this bishop pair. It's not that easy to use the dark squared bishop. Looks pretty good, though. Who is... Do you know Mastermind, High Lagger Bimbom? Or you're just attracted to the name? Looks pretty good for black. In general, this structure should be okay for white, but with the two knights. But I'm more concerned about his piece activity. I don't mind playing two knights against two bishops per se, but I am concerned about how well he's playing and about his piece activity here. I think I'm better off Queen e3 is going to be exposed on the file. He's starting to win a pawn here. I look pretty crushed here. No good moves. To play rook d1 to save my d pawn. Basically flawless play by black. Could be perfect. I don't see any mistakes, although it was kind of weird, you know, the way it was like c6, d6, bishop b4, check. This looks good. Maybe I made a mistake there. You know what? At the end of the day, this was an error. This is where I went wrong. I mean, knight c3 was more aggressive, but I guess I had to play bishop d2. I had to play bishop d2 and like force his hand. And then I'm okay. But it looks like knight c3 was asking too much from the position. So that was the key moment. I guess I have to play this and challenge that piece. Like bishop takes, knight takes. My knight actually helps out. It supports the other knight in f3. So it's my own doing. I did it to myself. I should have played knight bishop d2 instead. Okay, well, that's life. What are you going to do? I guess we can consider g4. If he plays bishop h5. He has three possible moves. I mean, going back here, or playing bishop takes f3. I don't want to play with the double pawns with my king open, with the queens on the board, really. So if I do allow this double pawns, I should trade queens. Black's a little bit better. But I feel like our position is holdable. Bishop d2 turned out to be a really important move. Live and learn, I guess. We just were a little slow. Too slow in development. I mean, who knows? Maybe there was another plan after that, but the way I played it, like bishop g5, ended up just making life so easy for black. This is not really a great endgame. I'm not bothered by the doubled pawns that much, you know. It's more like my pieces are just not really doing anything. I'm not sure about this. f6, he wants to bring his king to the center. but he's starting to get into time pressure. Honestly, I mean, he should seriously have considered f5 there. This bishop is debatable. And we're hoping to target, you know, his pawns along the c-file. That's why he needs some counterplay. My king is nowhere. I would play f4 like king g2, king f3 if I could, but now the best I'm going to do is like king f1, try to creep into the game. But this rook on e8 is causing a lot of havoc. So I still feel like black's a little bit better, but now he has a concrete problem there. Okay. Keep it simple. We were very, very lucky here because I didn't play this opening correctly, and we were worse. But now somehow we're might even be better. Looks like we're actually better now. His bishop never really knew what to do with itself. I mean, there's a million ways he could have played. I liked f5 earlier instead of f6. Now he's drifted into a slightly worse rook ending. Although my structure is bad too. This simply drops a pawn. Gotta take first. Actually, I could have played... No. Rook c7 check, not good. Now it's good. Now we're just winning. Okay, it's still not that easy. I have double pawns on the king's side. We're up one pawn. We will be up one pawn on the queen's side. But it should be enough to win. Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the opening, guys, just for a second, I want to just look at this position here. There's just a couple games. Kos and Seva, Nadeja and Andrew Greet are both decent players. ED, CD, Bishop E4 check, and they split. So one game somebody won and one game somebody lost. Do you guys want to speculate? Do you want to speculate here? Now the computer's liking knight c3. Strange. I thought I wasn't active enough in this position. So I'm following Andrew Greet, who went on to lose. And Kostenseva played Kostenseva played bishop d2 and went on to win. And I think this is the much safer move, actually. But just for argument's sake, for a second, let's see what happened here. Andrew Greet lost against the 2300 from Mongolia. A minor upset. And what are we doing here? Bishop g5. Okay, so this is a mistake. He played castles. Looks like black's very active, like I said, like the Chigorin. I can't really think that this is completely okay for white. Perhaps. But it looks difficult to play, and he went on to lose. Alright, guys, let's get back to the game. Baku's. Demaro. So black should try to open it up. Yeah, I mean, black had faster development. Or else try to get some really good outposts for his knights somehow. I mean, it's possible he trades his bishops for knights, you know, and gets some outposts. But he was a little ahead in development. Knight c3 was kind of risky for me, and Andrew Greet went on to lose. I'm not surprised, you know, because after bishop d2, like, the position is, it feels to me much simpler for white and much safer. So Kostanseva played simple chess. Okay, so what do you call it when you play e4 g5? That's like the Basman. I mean, I know g4 is the Grob, but when it's played by black, it's, oh wait, it's the can somebody tell me? Wait, what do you call it when you play the Grob with black? Something Basman came up with. All right, bishop g7. Wow, here you're just walking right into knight h5. The spider, into the spider's trap. The Grob with g5 has a name. I forget now. I think this is just the easy way to play against the Grob. Just do every time knight e2, knight g3. Okay, the position doesn't win itself, but we're good here. The Borg. Okay, there was another name too, though. I remember. Okay, d5. It's a very strange version of the Scandinavian. You've got to like white here. I think the question is really knight c3 or pawn takes pawn, but it feels like I need to play pawn takes pawn. I'm ahead in development. It's a good Scandinavian. He doesn't have the option to play knight f6. I mean, if you want to play knight f6, that's up to you, but of course you can do it. I wouldn't recommend it here. The Borg. Soroche, you're probably like, that would fit in with the bird. The Borg and the bird. 4-letter B words. Oh man. But I think that Basman wrote a book about it or something. Though Basman preferred to play h6 oftentimes and like g5. Michael Basman is an international master from the UK who he was a fanatic about playing bizarre openings throughout like the 80s and 90s. c6. I mean, you just don't see very many IM level players who play absurd openings. c6 playing it like a gambit. Well, we could take... I guess we gotta take up the gauntlet and play c3 with a solid structure. It's a strange kind of c3 Sicilian. And then he's blocking his bishop on c8. So don't want to fall too behind in development. I mean, obviously at some point down the line we could play like h4 or f4 trying to break up his pawn structure, but it's a little early for that. And bishop d3, I like that square for the bishop, but I'm afraid it might allow e5 with some counterplay for black. Well, I guess it's hard to stop e5 in any case if he wants to play that way. So well, you do something crazy like f4. f4 is not that bad. f4 and take with the bishop on f4. Interesting. Stopping e5. It's a little weakening. Maybe a little too asking too much. I don't know. f4. f4. What does he do though? My favorite variation here, he might try knight on g to e7. I was thinking knight g e7, and then, his idea would be to put his knight on d5. But there are some small technical problems, with that plan of development for black here. It may not be, to everybody's taste to try to develop in that way in this position. But I wanted to stop e5. That's my motivation with f4. Because after bishop e2 or bishop d3, it feels like he kind of gets a little bit of counterplay. And the idea is to take with the bishop to stop e5 and develop my pieces while I'm at it. You could have some c3 Sicilian themes going on here. Okay, queen d5. Avoiding the critical knight on g to e7. And I know Jeroen likes my sense of humor. Told me. Trying to be a little bit funny. Okay, queen d5, not a bad move. You've got e4. I've opened up a little bit with f4, so let's be careful. Developing pieces is our business. We could just simply play knight d2, strange as that might seem. Knight d2, the problem would be pawn takes f4. Knight a3 I don't like. Maybe I should just challenge his queen. I'm playing the birds opening, Jeroen, just for you. It's a transposition to the birds. You would like this. No more smothered mates, unfortunately, after the queen left the area. He has this flight square, d8. So, oh, the Altibox Norway Chess 2017. That's cool. We need to see some kind of real chess going on. I mean, it's cool about the Pro Chess League and everything, but it's still not real chess in a sense. Classical tournaments. G takes f3, and we got the queens off the board. We're up a pawn. It's good. And then f6. Just defending his g5 pawn. It looks like we're going to have a field day here, as they say. But I think priority should be to get the pieces out. Any problem with this move? Do you have a problem with this move, guys? Now we've reached a very technical position where I'm just a clear pawn up in an ending. And we don't have to do anything special, I think. He's played sensibly, but trading queens is not really what he wanted to do. Down a pawn, of course. Guys, we have another 35 minutes, excuse me, so we've got at least 2 more games after this. Nabil, back to basics. We lost our other challenger. Or was it Baku's who we lost? Wait, what am I spacing on? It wasn't Baku's who re-challenged, right? It was someone else. I think we lost our re-challenger. Who was that? What are the prize payouts for big chess tournaments like? Not very good. I was, man, I was thinking about this. On ChessBase, there was an article about a tournament in on the Catalan coast, Sitges or something like that, where it was like this open in a really, really nice place at the beach, and I don't know, they had an article about it on ChessBase News, and there were tons of players, but like, I was reading the article, then they were like, and I don't know, this guy who I played in in Zalakaros last year in the first round, I drew against. He acted like an idiot. Evgeny Romanov, he actually won the tournament, right? And got paid 2,000 euros. I thought, man, that is a really sad prize for a tournament with a lot of strong players in it. You know, seriously. I mean, like a weekend tournament in the United States or something, I could see like $1,000 or $1,500 or maybe $2,000. But like a major international tournament in a prime location with lots of strong GMs, and the first prize is 2,000 euros. That seems kind of small. I mean, nobody can really live on that. I mean, the GMs are getting appearance. They're not getting appearance fees, but they're getting their expenses paid for in terms of hotel and food, probably. You know, probably travel expenses they have to pay themselves. But come on now, 2,000 euros first place. That's pretty small. F5. I'm a little concerned about my knight getting trapped out there, but I think he's okay. Knight F2. So, I mean, I don't know, man. 2,000 euros for a major open, that's pretty stingy. I mean, 10 or 15 years ago, I guess it would be okay, but it's like 2017, you know. 2,000 euros doesn't go as far as it used to. I don't see how a professional, you know, can really make a living. You're not winning those prizes very often. The prizes need to go up. Sponsorship needs to go up, but I don't know how. I don't have any suggestions. And knight F6. So after this crazy opening, Baku's actually played. He's actually played this really well. Knight G3. No. This is not so easy for me. I don't really want to take on G5 and open up black along the H file. Maybe Rook G1 now. Still, it doesn't really threaten anything. Okay, let's just develop and sit tight. Maybe we can castle queenside. In fact, both sides may well castle queenside. I've chosen D2 rather than E3 because the bishop might get hit by like knight E7, knight D5. It's much safer to play bishop D2. He's holding on though. He's playing well. Just the opening he played, like maybe he's just having fun. That doesn't mean he's a weak player because he played a stupid opening. You've got to really just evaluate people based on the way they play the rest of the game. He has certain chances. Okay. I cannot really come up with anything convincing here. I don't like taking on G5. Whoops. Let's try a red arrow. That's a no-no. Red arrow is for no-no. Green is go, red is no. Red arrow. I don't like this capture because he's got instant compensation along the H file. We're having a little trouble with our king. Castling queenside. I'm a little reticent about that too. Now 95. We're just really low on time, so we'll just play 95. Try to simplify the situation here. But it's not so easy to win. I'm a pawn up. He has some counterplay. I'd like to undouble my pawns, obviously. But under the right circumstances, I don't like this capture too much. I'm threatening knight f7. And now, for our next trick, castling queenside looks more appetizing than it did before. We might consider tying him down to e6. It's kind of double-edged though. Let's just castle. Played f4. And this is getting kind of problematic. He's got 2 minutes to my 8 seconds. I think he's played great since the opening. Wow. I don't really like that I'm breaking up my pawn chain here. Oh, I just blundered. Maybe it wasn't so clear. Bishop takes c6, e6, bishop takes f3, bishop takes c8, bishop takes d1. But I think I should have taken there. I just didn't have time. Bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. And my king can get in the center in any kind of ending. This was better. Maybe I'm still winning, but I shouldn't break up my pawn chain. It's not that easy now. I have an isolated pawn on e5. Kind of panicked because of the time pressure. Guys, we have time for 2 more games after this. Nabil and back to basics. Why is he thinking so long on this move? It looks like automatic. Automatic recapture. Automatic capture. Okay, we can defend that pawn. It's nice. We've got bishop d4. Probably made a mistake again, though. Maybe I should have... His technique is excellent. Bakuz is not a weak player. This is very problematic. That was a mistake. There you should have played king d5. Because now, I think that's maybe decisive. Me getting the e4 square. If you play king d5 there, actually I guess I can play b3. I guess it wouldn't matter, would it? I just realized I had b3. And there, rook c8, he's still hanging on. And rook c1. Maybe it's winning for me no matter what. But you should fight for the d5 square. Maybe you would lose it eventually anyway. Interesting move. Fixing all the pawns on the right color. Not so easy for me to make progress. This losing. Cannot give me 2 connected passed pawns. Baku's played a good game though. Despite the weird opening, he struggled and came back, and then I think you were basically close to equal. Just keep playing good moves. And Nabil, quite a good fight from a bad position. He was like handicapping himself. You lost your mind in time. Yeah, you played a handicapped opening, and then you came back and you were okay, basically okay. I mean, a pawn down, but I'm not really thinking that I had a clear win at any point, and you were almost equal. Nabil, against knight f3. It's so hard to play against knight f3 for a win with black. I played d6 and he played e3. Kind of takes some of the sting out of bishop g4, I would think, which was my intention. Alright, well, he's like playing like he's black, more or less. So c5 isn't so great after d4, I would think. Got to be careful about that sort of thing. Not the right position for c5 after e3. I can play e5 with a reversed French. I can play any kind of fianchetto King's Indian type of setup. You could play the Dutch if you're so inclined. Jeroen. Guys, tomorrow we're going to be back with more Blitz and Classical Chess. Today went by quickly. A lot of intense games. So, some sort of safe setup against the King's Indian. I have a friend, International Master David Vigorito. He used to do this. He liked to play the French, and he used to like to play this very modest setup against even master strength players sometimes. You can do just b3, e3, d4, bishop e2. But maybe it's more aggressive to play like d4 and then basically like b4, a4. You just go crazy with the queenside expansion. Like it was a French defense against the King's Indian attack. You can also do it against the Dutch. And my friend had very good practical results. But b3 is more... This is a much more restrained approach for white. You know, just kind of like safe. There is a guy here in Hungary who plays stuff like this. Gyula Izak. Izak Gyula. He's a very strong IM who never got the GM title. He was like around 2,500. He played so solidly nobody could beat him. Just drew almost all of his games. Up to a certain level, he was beating them if they were like 2,300, of course, and drawing everyone else. But it's like so ultra solid type of style for white. Alright, so it's a kind of King's Indian attack. It's the King's Indian defense, technically. But it's more like a position you would get with white playing the King's Indian attack against the French. Feels like a King's Indian attack. My opponent is playing so conservatively, he's playing like he's black, basically. So, guys, check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Tomorrow I'll upload a new video, some kind of original concept material over there. We do upload the streams to the YouTube channel, and we are welcoming, new students if people are interested in private lessons. I always have different people starting and quitting, and there's a constant opening for new people. So if anyone's interested in seriously taking lessons, you can contact me, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Jeroen, I want to thank you for... I want to thank you. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly. I want to thank you for moderating today. It was so much more peaceful with you here. We don't appreciate how much you really do to keep the trolls in line. Alright, guys. So, Bobby Fischer liked to play the King's Indian attack. And once in a while we'll get a classic kind of Fischer type of King's Indian attack position. We'll play traditional style here. Knight d2, close it up, maybe knight f1, depending on what white does. He's been very non-committal so far. Typically people will play d4. He might try to play without d4. One thing I learned playing black against the King's Indian attack, this thing that I experimented with many years ago, was that the hedgehog per se, let's say you try to play the hedgehog with like d3, it doesn't work very well against the King's Indian attack. Because if you try to play the hedgehog, let's say he tried to play like d3, eventually at some point down the line I'm gonna like open it up with f5, f4 probably. That would actually bring this rook move into question. I wonder if I should hold off on that. Should I not play knight bd7, or should I not play rook e8 is a good question here. Maybe I should hold off on this, because sometimes I'll be playing for f5, f4. So I guess a purist King's Indian attack expert might say I made a mistake, playing rook e8. Maybe I should just hold off on that. Now he changes the structure, but now we're playing something that looks more like a kind of standard sort of King's Indian. Petrosian would be happy with black. If you guys like the King's Indian, or you like the King's Indian attack, I strongly recommend going over all of the world champion Petrosian's games, because he was like, and that whole generation of Soviet grandmasters, like in the 50s and 60s and 70s, there was such appreciation for the King's Indian in general. Boleslavsky, Liechtenstein, so many great players who are expert in King's Indian type positions. Alright, so d3, I've been holding off on knight h5, but it's certainly not a bad move for black. I keep asking myself, what would Petrosian do? He loved to maneuver like knight c5, knight e6. There were some fantastic games where he actually played really well in some fascinating like symmetrical King's Indian attack positions. Kind of like this, but more like a traditional thing where, there'd be like a fianchetto for both sides. Both sides would play like g3 and do the same thing. Now what are we doing here? Trading pieces again? I don't really want to trade pieces with you. But I'm concerned about, objectively, what's the best move. I mean, c6 is... c6... Actually, I can take and play knight f4. Take and play knight f4. Is it really good? It's kind of controversial because I'm opening the c file for white. Black's fine, but I'm not sure it's the best. What's the best? But I get the f4 square for my knight, which is a concession. Now what does he do? This knight on f4 is very troubling for white, and we have f5 maybe. I can defend along the c file, but the main thing is that I get this knight on f4, and he's immediately concerned about it, playing that bishop c1. But I think black is pretty good to go here. Bishop g4 is interesting. Maybe I should go for c6. Hard to decide, but I don't think this is a position where I can just attack him all out on the king side. I need to kind of use everything I've got. Think a lot. Gives up his dark squared bishop. Wow, pretty extreme. The dark squares now look really weak. A little bit like my game with what's his name? Mind Alterer. Mind Alterer was a very strong poker player on Poker Stars. Mind Alterer. I don't know if he's still on there. Mind Alter. I think that was it. Tournament player on Poker Stars. No, What was the guy? Now I don't remember. I can't remember a game I played 20 minutes ago. Okay, dark squares, dark squares. Yeah, he's got a good plan here. We got to go h5. We don't want to allow bishop g4. It looks like Nabil has a good understanding of bad bishop trading for bishop g4 for bishop on c8. I don't want to trade that off. If he trades my white square bishop, he's fine. And in fact, he has a really good outpost here with knight c4 now. So we got to make sure this stays a bad piece. Because otherwise, we could have some problems. And I think now it's just a matter of well, actually, life is not that easy. a5 is interesting, but I'm a little concerned about my f-pawn, so let's nail this down. Let's nail this down. And I was toying with the idea of bishop e6, but actually that move might not be great, because after like queen d2, if I play queen f6, I'll drop my d6 pawn to knight takes d6. So I was thinking about playing queen f6 at some point to guard f4, and if I do that, then we're going to need to make sure this d6 pawn is covered. Queen e2 is an excellent move. I could sacrifice a pawn with g5, but I think we'll reserve that option for a little bit later. Things are starting to get kind of interesting on the king side. Starting to get a hint of kingside threats for black. I mean, I didn't consider, well, we couldn't play queen g5. We're tied down to this pawn. Bishop f3, very subtle. And a good move too. So Nabil is getting kind of nasty with me here. I don't like what's happening. We're going to have to be very, very careful. Strong knight. He's made the most of the bad bishop. King h1. Kind of automatic move, but I'm not sure his king is going to be safe anywhere it goes. Yes. This was not an accident. He just self-immolated. Unless he has some kind of really deep trick that I didn't see. This is not good. He can try to survive for a while here. But those two bishops are monstrous. Alright, now the a6 pawn. Oh, screw it. There's no time to worry about the a6 pawn. a7, whatever it is. Whatever it is, a7. There goes the queen side. Well, he has an a pawn, which is very powerful. Of course, I'm not going to trade queens here. We don't see me playing too many King's Indian type attacks, but this was basically essential. Now I think White still has some defensive chances there, but maybe he had to move his queen, right? And then there's no time for knight d2. He could still play knight d2. Our attack is really strong. Wow. Queen e1. Nabil. You're the guy from Jordan. Okay. Queen h4. Wait a minute here. Yeah, obviously we don't really want to sacrifice the queen on h3 if we don't have to. I don't think that's going to be enough. One more game after this, guys. Nabil came really close to defending this. It's just not quite possible here. Oh, there's site update in progress. The game won't count. That's what happened last time when I was in a tournament. It just didn't count. Site update in progress. Smurfing. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely lose your rating points to make your pairings easier, right? I mean, especially the way the tournaments are structured here. So, like, if you start the tournament in the first round, you have to play a strong player. It makes sense to be lower rated. Plus, people underestimate you. Okay, we've got network error reconnecting. It doesn't look like it's reconnecting. All right, let's try to reconnect. Leave page. That's it. Well, that was interesting. We're still waiting. Okay. Guys, I wanted to play one more game, but I mean, we might get timed out by sort of the site here. I like this cartoon, but we got to get like a couple going on, like a little bit of variation maybe. Sorry about the site update. A bug fix was just pushed. Music down. Sexy robot. I don't know if we're going to be back for one more game or not, guys. We'll give it a minute or two. It's basically time to quit for today. So, Blue Crow, sorry you're late, man. You're supposed to be the moderator today. I don't know what you were thinking. You're not even moderator yet and you're already screwing up. I'm just kidding. Helping a friend move, that can be a difficult job. So we were just like one move away from mating Baku's when the site update saved him from the devastating bishop takes h3, resigns. It's unbelievable. just saved by the bell, literally. So I think that's going to do it for today, guys. The cartoon has an undertone. It says the girl plays with the machine. I don't think it has. I don't know, man. I was just joking about the sexy robot, but I don't see any kind of undertones here. It looks like a very straight up. Well, she does have a robot chair, right? It's kind of weird. I don't know about that. Like, what does it mean that you have the robot chair? He has a normal chair. She has a robot chair. That's the only undertone I can really see here. I'm not sure it has any particular meaning. We can interpret this all day. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for today. We're going to be back tomorrow. And Baku survived. Nice job defending there by pulling the plug on lichess.org, Bakus. We will be, why are you streaming? Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday. Otherwise the stream will crash. So I'm not sure about that. We can try to speed it up. We can try to speed it up tomorrow to a faster camera speed, but it's not like we're playing you know, some kind of third-person shooter game or something, you know, where it's really important what the FPS is here, dude. It's not a high-speed video game. But whatever. We'll be back tomorrow, guys. Friday, 10 a.m. CET. More Blitz and Classical Chess here. And again, thanks for joining me. Thanks to Jeroen for moderating. And thank you to everybody for checking out my videos on YouTube as well. Video chess training on YouTube. So good job, Bakus. Good job, man. Thanks for pulling the plug. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.